Hello everyone, I'm Shao-Yu from UC San Diego. Today I'd like to share an educational game we've been building to train developers' privacy awareness. So let me start with an enforcement case. Pre-Mom is a fertility app. Women log their periods to the app because they trust the company's promise on never sharing their users' health data. However, in 2023, FTC found that the company is actually sharing such health data to third parties. Such details, like what the company actually did and what went wrong, are written in these 29 pages of complaint. It's a real and concrete lesson for us to learn from, but with these dense legal documents, I believe no developers are willing to sit down and dig through it. So instead, we turn it into a game. So let me show you how the game works. So through these descriptions, the players learn about these privacy incidents, about real companies and real enforcement cases. So the players take the role of an investigator to navigate the large evidence base by choosing which investigation action to take. By doing so, they're able to learn the company's privacy policies, what data are collected, what access permission were asked, things like that. So let's say the player is interested in what data is collected. So after they read through these descriptions, the evidence gets automatically collected and stored in this evidence panel. So they can freely explore the case by navigating through different investigation actions. Over time, they collect more and more evidence. So whenever they think that things are feeling off, they can file a report. So this can happen at any moment, so they don't need to wait until the end to make a judgment at once. When they file a report, they follow the structured form to assign the evidence at hand to each slot. So for example, when they report a misrepresentation, they need one evidence for the claim and one for the actual practice that contradicts with the claim. So when their answers does not align with what's written in the FTC complaint, the feedback tells them which part to reconsider to fix their reasoning path. So their goal is to find all the violations as mentioned in the complaint. And when they get it correct, the game further explains the violation, and these are grounded in the regulations. So in order to have learning that actually sticks, we bet on three things. First, the materials themselves have to hold the learner's attention. And second, learners learn better when they figure out the answers by themselves, instead of being handed to the solutions. And third, learning transfers better when the practices are grounded in realistic scenarios. So privacy is everyone's job. But among all kinds of roles, developers actually sit at the center of it. Their decisions about what data are collected, how the data are used, whether the data are shared or not, and what the default options are set in the configurations directly shape users' privacy. But many of them were never taught to see these decisions in this way. So we view it as an education problem. We ask, how do we help developers and the students that will then become them to be more privacy sensitive? So how do developers learn about privacy today? Many of them have access to these training courses, which normally prepare them with two types of question. One is concept-based question. So they ask things like, what counts as PII? And the other type offers them a short description of a scenario and then asks them what's going wrong. But with these scenarios, they are often not realistic. They're often overly simplified and made up scenarios. On the other hand, these questions does not really hold the learner's attention. It takes up to seconds or at most a minute for them to complete these questions. And with this short attention window, they're not really able to learn from it. On the other hand, some other developers learn about privacy informally by reading the news. So these are real cases, but the signal is relatively sparse, as there are not much privacy news coming out every day. And it's easy to feel like it's others' problem. We've been working on privacy training for developers for a while. We've built Panopticon, Privacy Jury, and the Privacy Detective game you just saw is our most recent addition. For Panopticon, it's a board game that teaches privacy design that can be used in classes. So we're inspired by Monopoly and reimagine its financial system into a data economy. Instead of buying properties, the players actually own digital services, and their goal is to maintain their users' trust. In order to do so, they propose their privacy designs, critique others' design, and over time, they iteratively refine their own designs. For Privacy Jury, it's a registry of real privacy enforcement decisions. We created over 1,100 of these enforcement decisions over 7 jurisdictions. With this registry, we're able to teach developers the consequence they may face when privacy decisions go wrong. Building on top of these two, we have this new privacy detective. There's 3 main ideas behind. First, we made it a detective game. And second, it offers guided reasoning. And third, they're built on top of real enforcement cases. So why did we make it a detective game? So when we think about these privacy problems, we notice that the cause of them are often not as obvious as simply asking what data is collected. But instead, let's take the example of the Premom case. So they collected users' health data as they input directly into the app. And it integrates third-party SDKs to do analytics works. And through these SDKs, they log the user's in-app behaviors through descriptive titles. While these events actually reveal users' health condition, the company actually promised not to share these health data with others. So this actually presents a misrepresentation among it. So in order to really recognize the issue, you'll have to dig into these decision chains. And this is when we need learners to decide which part to pay attention to. And that's when selective attention comes in. And also through a game format, we're able to engage the learners to a longer attention window so that they're able to build such reasoning among them. And second, guided reasoning. Being able to explain something is actually different from simply recognizing it. It requires a deeper skill to really construct the reason behind it. So that's what our structure reports help the users to build. They point them to these explanations. They point them to the fields that would help them construct such explanation. And since the reports are structured, we're able to automatically grade them, and then they are able to get immediate feedback so that they can correct their reasoning whenever it falls short. Third, real enforcement cases. So when we read into these legal documents, we're pretty surprised at how concrete the details were provided. So for example, when it comes to privacy policies, they often include word-by-word quotes. As for these data practices, they include details such as the exact titles that used in these custom events. With these, we're able to offer a well-contextualized and concrete scenario for players to practice on. And also, since there are real enforcement cases, they can calibrate their sensitivity to what the regulators actually act on. To build the game levels from these legal documents, we start with these counts, which usually start with the violation types. Then they point back to previous paragraphs about the facts that actually leads to such violation. We then map this into the in-game structure report, and each of these cited facts become a component under it. We then assemble these facts and the violations into a playable struct tree. We cluster the facts into investigation actions and also add distractors to make sure it mimics the real-world messy environment. We also ensure that all the descriptions make sense in arbitrary reading order. To get an insight on how effective the learning effect is, we ran a user study with 24 student developers. So they start with identifying and explaining the privacy violations in a given scenario. After that, half of them played the game, and the other half read the complaint and the official press release. After the learning activity, they receive a new scenario and then again identify and explain the privacy violations. We measure their improvement by comparing their performance before and after the learning, and then we compare the improvement between the two groups. So we use two metrics. The first one is recall. So we check among all the violations FTC alleged, how many did they actually catch? And the second one is about reasoning completeness. So for a violation that they caught, did they offer a full argument that includes all the cited facts? So both groups improved on both metrics. For recall, the reading group improved by 10%, and those who played the game improved by 24%. As for reasoning completeness, the reading group improved by 12%, and those who played the game improved by 22%. So both groups improved, but those who played the game actually improved more. So here's the link to our privacy detective game. Feel free to try it out. We also got the privacy jury and panopticon that we built. So if any of you are interested in developers' privacy education, I'd love to chat and collaborate. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.